I don't believe in pruning roots.
No.
I think that you should pot them up before the roots reach the edge. I don't think you should be pruning roots. I think it's entirely wrong. Pretty much categorically, where in nature are roots pruned?
Right, but when you
Bonsai, right? You prune the roots in bonsai to keep the plant small, right? There's these hormones that are released by the growing root tip. I think there's auxins and cytokinins, and one's the leaf and one's the root. Does anybody know?
Auxins are the leaf, I think.
They're produced by the leaf?
Yeah.
So the cytokinins are produced by the root. And the growing root tip produces cytokinins, the growing leaf tip produces auxins. These are growth hormones that keep the plant in check. And it helps the plant create a nice, broad, stocky, frame and structure. And so when the roots are impinged and there's not so much of a growing root tip, then there's fewer the cytokinins are produced, there's more auxins produced. That's when the plants get leggy and long. And that's a sign that you screwed your plant up. That's hormone imbalance. If anybody knows what hormone imbalance is, think about hormone imbalance from a human perspective. If you understand hormone imbalance and you want to give it to your plants, prune the roots. Right? You want the bottom to be at least as large as the top, if not just only as large as the top. You never want the top to get larger than the bottom. So when you take your broccoli seedling in a little cell that's 3.5 inches tall, that's why you're not going to get a head larger than 4 ounces.
You're also separating your soil blocks. So you want to separate your soil blocks prior to the roots exiting the said soil block.
2 weeks. 2 weeks is what we found is the optimal age for a seedling to be transplanted. Full stop. End of conversation. Don't give me any other rationales or et cetera, et cetera. Plants are not supposed to be transplanted. Transplanting is unnatural. It's transplant. If you insist on transplanting, if you want to get a jump on the season, if you don't trust that those tomatoes germinating in the soil in May are going to be as big as they always are in August, because they always are. If you don't trust that the seeds of summer squash that you plant into good soil are going to get ripe first before the seedlings, because it happens every year. If you don't trust all this, understand it seems to be from the SRI literature that putting seedlings in about 2 weeks is optimal. Because otherwise it becomes very difficult to not slow them down with this root impingement issue. That seems to be what the literature's telling. And you can take it or leave it or experiment with it or whatever you want. Yeah.
Could you be a little bit more specific? After the 2 weeks, what are you transplanting the seedling into?
Soil. The ground.
The ground. Okay. What if it's not warm enough?
You started your seedlings too early. Or you need to pot them up.
Okay. So if you're
That's why the
potting
soil
them
blocks are nice, because you can pot them up if you need to. If you need to go past 2 weeks because the ground's not ready yet, you can go from a 2-inch block to a 4-inch block and minimize the negative effect.
Okay. I'm not familiar with soil blocks.
It's a little technique where you get this little thing and you get potting soil and you just go clunk and it makes these little 4-inch blocks of soil or 2-inch blocks of soil. So functionally it's like a cell tray. But they're independent, and you can start the seeds in a small soil block, and you can put it literally into the next size. So you pot them up, and all you're using is potting soil. Nothing else besides potting soil. Johnny sells them.
Mm-hmm.
They're like whatever, a couple dozen bucks each. $20 for this one, $60 for that one.